Welcome to the
Unpopular Opinions.
Unpopular opinions.
Have unpopular opinions.
Unpopular opinions.
Okay, so what's an unpopular opinion?
Unpopular opinions.
To utter such blasphemy. He's got the nerve, the audacity, the unmitigated gall to echo such blasphemous nonsense. Just blasphemy.
How's everybody doing today? This is Jalen Hunter coming back with episode 3 of the Unpopular Podcast. I want to thank you guys for listening. Today, we're going to talk about Dwight Howard and why he is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Yep, you heard it right. First ballot Hall of Famer. Stay tuned and I'll let you know why. So, when you look at the Hall of Fame, the greatest player in that particular sport make the Hall of Fame. Whether it's the Basketball Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame, the NFL Hall of Fame, you have to be a great player to be in the Hall of Fame. Hell, there are some players that were great that still have not made it in the Hall of Fame. If you look at it, you have Michael Jordan, you have Magic Johnson, you have Allen Iverson. NFL, you have Chris Carter, Shannon Sharpe, Ray Rice, Joe Montana. The greatest of the greatest players only make it into the Hall of Fame. But there's sometimes that the Hall of Fame voters kind of get, their vision kind of gets cloudy when you look at off the field or off the court antics, or situations that might shine a negative light on the player. For instance, and a prime example right now is Terrell Owens for the NFL. If you look at Terrell Owens, in fact, let me read you some numbers before I go on with Terrell Owens. Terrell Owens has 153 total touchdowns in his career. That's top 5 ever. He averaged 14.8 yards per catch. That's top 5 ever. He has a total of 15,934 yards in his whole career. That's top 5 ever. And he also has 1,078 receptions in his career. That's top 5 ever. So when I tell you all this and when you hear all those stats, you have to ask yourself, why did it take Terrell Owens 3 times to make it to the Hall of Fame? 3 times. It took 3 cracks at it because of his off the field antics. With run-ins with the media, doing sit-ups on the press conference in his front yard, or all the quote-unquote spats he had with his coaches and his teammates, and getting ran out of San Francisco and getting ran out of Dallas, getting ran out of Philadelphia. Terrell Owens brought a lot of baggage to his name. However, I don't think it's right that should hinder him from being in the Hall of Fame. Terrell Owens never did anything malicious off the field. He never had any, domestic abuse incidents. He never had any incidents like that at all. So if that's true, I feel voters should only look at his stats that, like I just said, majority, if not all of them, are top 5 in the entire NFL ever when you're talking about wide receivers. And that's where I segue to Dwight Howard. We all know Dwight Howard, man. We all know, the antics, and we all know how he was ran out of, the unceremonious ending in Orlando, to being ran out of LA, being ran out of Houston, being ran out of Atlanta, being ran out of Charlotte. Dwight Howard is a very polarizing person. Dwight Howard, he's a big man that a lot of people just can't get with, man. Like when you think of the NBA's big men, you think of rough, rugged. You think of a DeMarcus Cousins type, or let me go back. You think of a Dikembe Mutombo. You think of a Ben Wallace type, like rough and rugged, and you don't think of a light, kind-hearted, jovial person like Dwight Howard is. And that can rub teammates the wrong way a lot. Or, as you know, the league is changing. The league is not a, dish the ball down low in the block to your center, dribble the ball, a couple times, try to do a, spin hook or try to dunk on somebody. That's not the league anymore. The league is, run and gun, shoot threes, try to put up as much points as possible while playing the best defense you can. The league has changed. And with the league changing, Dwight Howard hasn't done a great job at adjusting to it. Dwight Howard still thinks that he is the type of player that you can give 20, 30 touches to and he will lead you to victory. That's not the NBA anymore. You can't Dwight Howard thinks you can just dump him the ball and he's still one of the strongest players in the NBA. But Dwight Howard thinks, a center can win you a game like it used to. Now, if he's not shooting threes or he's not shooting at least mid-ranges, that's not happening. But let me share some numbers with you real quick. Dwight Howard is an 8-time All-NBA All-Star. He's a 5-time All-NBA first team. He made All-NBA second team once. He's a 2-time All-NBA third team. He's a 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, which, might I add, he's one of 4 players to ever win that award more than once, or more than twice, and he's won it 3 times. Dwight Howard is a 4-time All-Defensive First Team. He's been All-Defensive Second Team. He was the All-Rookie First Team. He's a Slam Dunk Champion. He's a 5-time NBA Rebound Leader, 2-time NBA Blocks Leader. He is a McDonald's All-American, Mr. Georgia Basketball, and he is a Naismith Player of the Year, or pre-Player of the Year when they used to give it to high schoolers. Dwight Howard, when he was on Orlando, Dwight Howard was one of the most athletic players the league has ever seen, let alone big men. Dwight Howard led a Magic team with Hedo Turkoglu, Jameer Nelson, Mikael Pietrus, and Rashard Lewis, not the Supersonics Rashard Lewis, the Orlando Magic Rashard Lewis. He took that team to the NBA Finals. He even beat the King LeBron James to make it to the NBA Finals. Dwight Howard, when he was on Orlando, was arguably one of the 20 greatest players on Orlando. I'm not talking about entire career, but in Orlando, he was if his career projection would have kept going how it was in Orlando before all the injuries, he would be easily top 20 player of all time. Dwight Howard was arguably top 10 or 15 centers of all time while he was with Orlando. He was an unstoppable force. No, he didn't have the greatest post moves. In fact, I don't think he had a post move. His post move was, give me the ball, I'm stronger than you, I'm going to either jump higher than you and dunk on you, or I'm going to, because he has some of the biggest shoulders I've ever seen, I'm going to put my shoulder in your chest and dunk on you, or just throw me the lob and I'm going to catch it. Dwight Howard, what I did was, when you look at Dwight, you hear a lot of people say, oh, Dwight is not a Hall of Famer. No, Dwight is not a Hall of Famer. Do you know what he did when he went to, when he went to LA? Him and Kobe always fight. He couldn't win a championship. You know what he did in Houston? Him and James Harden always fought. Nobody liked him in Atlanta. Hell, he only stayed 1 year in Charlotte, and then he got kicked out. Man, let me tell you, bro. Again, I hate how we as a society and MVP voters look at players and instead of actually looking at the numbers, we as people look at the character and be like, no, I don't think he's a Hall of Famer. Let me compare Dwight Howard to another Hall of Famer. I'm not gonna say his name yet, but I'm gonna give you stats. Player A, which is Dwight Howard, averaged 17.4 points as a career, 2 blocks a game, probably a steal a game, 2 assists a game, 13 total rebounds, shoots free throws at 57%, and field goal percentage is at 58%. Field goal percentage. That's a career. Comparing to another player, this is player B, which is a Hall of Famer. 17.1 points a game, 3 blocks a game, 1 assist a game, 9 rebounds a game, and a field goal percentage of 53. You know who that second player was? Alonzo Mourning, who was a first ballot Hall of Famer. So if there was no question when Alonzo Mourning was eligible to make the Hall of Fame, there was no question that he would be a Hall of Famer. Why is there scrutiny and criticism when people say that Dwight Howard is a first ballot Hall of Famer? You know, it's funny to me because, like I said, we look at players and we look at situations where the player gets their personality just overshadows their career. In fact, you know, and it's funny. We always talk about how bad Dwight Howard was in Orlando and how bad he was in, Houston. Dwight Howard played with a torn rotator cuff and back problems when he kept getting back injuries when he played for LA, and he, along with Kobe and a broken down Steve Nash, who barely played, might I add, got him to the playoffs. Dwight Howard was still a top 5 center in the league. In fact, Dwight Howard has been a top 10 at least center in the league his entire career, injuries and all. But like I said, when he was with when he was with the Lakers, he took them along with Kobe to the playoffs. Then, oh man, he was terrible when he went to Houston. Him and James Harden couldn't get along. Well, along with James Harden, Dwight Howard helped lead. James Harden and Dwight Howard helped lead Houston to the conference finals to play again. When, might I add, they were down 3-1 against the Clippers and Chris Paul, and they led them all the way, or they led them to the Western Conference Finals to ultimately lose to the Golden State Warriors, who ended up winning the championship that year. I believe that was 2015. Dwight, look, you can't say that Dwight Howard isn't a good player. You can't. And you can't say Dwight Howard hasn't been a good player his entire career, because, again, the man averages 17.4 as a career, 17.4 points a game, 17 points a game, 13 rebounds a game, 2 assists a game, pretty much, on 58% field goal percentage, with a win share of 128.3. If those aren't Hall of Fame numbers, I don't know what is. Again, we as fans need to stop looking at the current, or stop looking at what happened off the field or off the court or in locker rooms, and actually look at their production on the floor. Dwight Howard had one of his best career seasons last year as a Hornet. But of course, people are going to look like, not even Hornets wanted him because of his personality, so he must be trash. Dwight Howard is not a top 5, not a top 10 player in the league anymore. That's not the case. But is to say that Dwight Howard is not a Hall of Famer is laughable to me. Laughable. Dwight Howard, look, there was a time when we looked at, in fact, there was a couple years when Dwight Howard, I think it was about 4 or 5 years in a row, when Dwight Howard finished top 3 in MVP voting. I think the year that Derrick Rose won, he was 3rd. The year after that, he was 2nd. Or in the year before, after that, I believe he was 2nd or 3rd. Dwight Howard has always been in the discussion of some of the greatest players to ever play. In fact, Dwight Howard is one of the greatest Orlando Magic ever to play. Not saying he's better than Shaq, but if we're looking at their tenures, if we're looking at Shaq's tenured in Orlando and Dwight Howard's tenured in Orlando, then Dwight Howard was the greatest Orlando Magic to ever play. Again, don't hear me say that he's better than Shaq. Career-wise, no, but I'm looking at Shaq's time in Orlando compared to Dwight Howard's time in Orlando, and it's almost uncomparable. Look. You remember, I don't know if you remember or not, but there was a time when Dwight Howard called himself, or people called Dwight Howard Superman. From his body type to his broad shoulders to his ability to jump out the gym. If you don't remember the All-Star game when he came out his jersey and had the Superman shirt with the cape and pretty much threw the ball in the rim, or when in the NBA in the playoffs against the Hawks when they ultimately lost, unfortunately. There was that one game where Dwight Howard scored, I think, Orlando's first 26 out of 28 points. Before, Dwight Howard didn't decrease me because of, he was just trash. No, he decreased because his body gave up on him. To be an athletic player like he was, and to have the body type, and to get that degree of getting beat up night after night, your body's gonna wear on you. And unfortunately, one knock on Dwight that I do believe is that he never developed his game because I guess he never felt he had to. When you've been the biggest, most athletic player your whole life, I'm pretty sure there's a mentality of, why do I need to change? And that you can clearly see that with Dwight Howard. Now, no, Dwight Howard isn't, hitting, dunking on 12, 13-foot rims anymore. Dwight Howard isn't gonna soar across the sky like he used to, but Dwight Howard can still get up. There was times last year when last year, Dwight Howard had a 30-30 game. 30 points, or 30-plus points, 30-plus rebounds. That's last year. And this is, look. I can't. And Dwight Howard's not even 7 feet tall. He's 6'11". 6'10" on a good day. 6'10", 6'11" on a good day. If you look at players, man, there's some players that are easy Hall of Famers right now, like Kevin Durant, like LeBron James, Stephen Curry, who's a clear Hall of Famer right now? Chris Paul. There are clear Hall of Famers from their accolades or what they've done in their career. And then there are players that you have to do a little bit of arguing with, like Carmelo. If you say Carmelo Anthony is in the Hall of Famer, you got some problems. Or if you say another person that I could have done a whole podcast about. If you want to hear a podcast about that, or you agree or disagree with me about this, let me know. But Kevin Love is a first ballot Hall of Famer. If you look at the stuff he did in Minnesota, and hell, even the stuff he did in Cleveland, Kevin Love is a first ballot Hall of Famer. But we're talking about Dwight Howard right now. Look, Dwight Howard's career didn't get derailed by injury like a Derrick Rose or, Brandon Roy or T-Mac. Or who, might I add, T-Mac's in the Hall of Fame. I'm just saying. Dwight Howard's career didn't end with scandal like Gilbert Arenas or Javaris Crittenton. Dwight Howard, of course, didn't win any championships. He probably will never win a championship. But if you look at his career stats, and if you even just look at his stats as last year, and look at what he did in Orlando when he took a dying franchise before they got him and turned them into a Eastern Conference powerhouse, then there is no argument that Dwight Howard is a Hall of Famer. First ballot Hall of Famer. And there you have it. It's hard talking about players that are currently playing, some players that are currently playing and saying they're Hall of Fame. It's also harder when you're talking about a player that brings so much personal baggage, with team after team. The man's been on 5 teams, or this will be his sixth team. So it's hard making an argument that a player like that is a first ballot Hall of Famer, let alone a Hall of Famer altogether. But if you look at what Dwight Howard has done in his career, and especially what he did for Orlando, then it should be no question that Dwight Howard is a Hall of Famer. First ballot Hall of Famer, to be exact. And if you don't agree with me, he is the greatest Orlando Magic of all time. Yes, his tenure with Orlando and Shaquille O'Neal's tenure with Orlando, sort of unparalleled. When you look at the consistency and how long Dwight Howard did it between how long Shaquille O'Neal did it. But, if you don't agree with me, leave it in the comments. I want to thank you guys for listening to this edition of the Unpopular Podcast. Again, I said why Dwight Howard is a first ballot Hall of Famer. Stay tuned for the next couple of podcasts. We're going to stick with the NBA a little bit until the NFL season rolls around, and then we're going to, dive heavy in some NFL topics. So thank you again for listening, and live long and prosper. Much love.
Make no mistake, girl, I still love you. Make no mistake, girl, I still love you. Make no mistake, girl, I still love you. Make no mistake, girl, I still love you.
Take the top off, let the sun